For starters, this story is much less whimsical than the title might lead you to believe. What is a mugwump? The answer is, fuck if I know. Nor do I know where my aunt found one. My grandfather had always kind of spoiled Aunt Carol. She was the first girl born into the family and was a diva from day one. When my grandfather's cancer metastasized, it was like the martyr jackpot. She would call us at all hours of the day with some sob story about how poorly Dad was doing, and by implication, her. Meanwhile, the bulk of the actual care went to my Uncle Bob and my Aunt Amy. Carol used her dying dad as an excuse to monopolize every conceivable holiday. When Grandpa passed, the sigh of relief from the whole family could have caused a typhoon. We had hoped this would be an end to the holiday shenanigans. Apparently not. We were just in the doorway. My wife hadn't even gotten my youngest coat off when Carol bustled over.
Oh, it's so good you're finally here.
We were an hour early for dinner.
I wanted to make sure seating wasn't a problem. I need to sit by Clarence. You know, he can't eat on his own.
The name Clarence did not belong to any cousin I knew, and I could see from her face it was a baited hook to get me to ask who Clarence was. I ignored it and dealt with my kids before walking into the dining room and stopping short. What sat strapped to a booster seat was pink and fleshy and wet. It was the size of a toddler, completely hairless, with an oval opening for a mouth. Its bulging frog eyes had no visible whites, and not once did it stop wheezing through the whole night. "What the fuck is that?" I said, forgetting my rule against swearing in front of kids. Aunt Carol smiled smugly and fluffed the pillow behind it.
I found Clarence all alone. My poor little mugwump needs me. It's so nice to finally have something I can really care for.
Meanwhile, her adult son Kevin just looked downcast behind her. I'd never felt so much for the poor guy before.
What is that? Why is it at the table?
My wife wouldn't let it go.
I don't want it around my kids. It looks unsanitary.
My aunt's smug expression didn't waver.
Clarence needs special care. He's a special boy.
She cooed at the pink lump. I almost threw up right then and there. I don't even know how I made it to dinner. The thing about dysfunctional families is you get adjusted to weird shit really quickly. Something really fucked up is sprung on you, and you have a moment where you look at it and think, this is normal now. So my aunt had a mugwump, and it was sitting at the dinner table. Carol hadn't actually done any of the cooking at the house. My cousin Kevin's much beleaguered girlfriend had done the side dishes. Aunt Amy had done the turkey. Carol's contribution was some shitty centerpieces she'd picked up at Dollar General. And the horrible pink nightmare seated at the table, of course. No one was in the mood for dinner when all was said and done. It was an utter tragedy. We had show-perfect golden brown turkey, my wife's patented bacon beans, and even my oldest daughter had baked a loaf of French bread. And we couldn't touch a bite of it because Carol decided Clarence had to be served first. She fetched the baby food mill and immediately began gouging pieces out of the turkey to put in there. She chose all the wrong bits too, the crispy ones that resisted being ground up. All the time, that damn thing was wheezing. It was like a dentist drill in each ear. My eldest was pale, and I gave her her first glass of wine and told her it was okay. We tried to ignore the spectacle as we served plates, but the thing about Aunt Carol is that if you ignore her, she just gets louder. She talked about how the mugwump didn't have a bathroom hole. Her words, not mine. And so she just put a diaper on for appearance's sake. She had to keep baby talking to it in a near shout as she shoved spoonful after spoonful of candied yams and stuffing bits down its oval mouth. I don't know if that thing had a tongue, or if it could even swallow. Half of whatever she put in it just slid out its mouth anyway. The skin at its neck kept bulging like a frog's. Aunt Amy made the mistake of looking over mid-chew and had to spit it out into her napkin. Uncle Bob, the oldest sibling, carved the turkey with murder in his eyes. When the Mugwump took too much mashed potatoes and started choking, that's the point when my youngest daughter threw up. The stupid pink thing just started hacking, patches of the skin on its head pulsing in time with the coughs. My little Katie bent to the side and just unleashed a torrent from her stomach. In retrospect, I'm surprised it took that long for someone to toss it. After that, though, all bets were off. When Carol used her finger to fish a bacon bit off the Mugwump's cheek and popped it into her mouth, Aunt Amy gave up and ran to the kitchen sink. Uncle Craig made it through 2 gut-churning dishes, but when Carol grabbed the giblets to put in the grinder, he darted outside. My oldest gave a wine-heavy burp. I hadn't been watching her, and she'd had 3 glasses. I used that excuse to get my family away from the table. My wife was close behind, desperately covering her mouth. The girls shared the toilet bowl. I spit a little into the sink, but managed to regain my composure. My wife said, "Fuck it," and puked in the bathtub. I think she specifically aimed for the girly soaps Aunt Carol left in the corner of the tub. We all just took a moment to breathe and concoct our excuse to get away. Because when someone like Carol is acting like that, a rational explanation like, "You and your pink tumor child are disgusting," isn't going to make an impact. When we made it back to the dining room, the only 2 people left in there were Aunt Carol and Kevin. Kevin was watching Carol coo over the food she was shoving into this thing's mouth with angry tears in his eyes.
"This is why Dad divorced you, you know,"
he said. Carol didn't react. She gasped at how clever Clarence was when he made a noise very close to a burp. We made a war party in the kitchen. We were past disgust and had arrived at anger. Fuck that thing. Fuck Caroline for that matter. We had to get her out of the house. But how? Kevin's girlfriend hit the $1 million idea. With coaching from all of us, she crept out to the dining room with a fake smile on her face.
"Hey, Carol, do you know where the whipped topping is? I've got 2 pumpkin pies ready to go out."
Carol was incensed. She slammed the spoon down.
That's absurd. There's no way 2 pumpkin pies will last this whole family.
Grumbling, she gathered her purse and ran out to the store. While she was gone, we took care of business. We got some towels to pick the Mugwump up. No one wanted to touch it. And brought it to the backyard. That's when we found out that whatever a Mugwump is, it's effectively immortal. Stomping on its head just led to it reinflating after a minute. Axes couldn't cut it. We even threw salt on it, to no avail. Finally, we just stuck it back in the house and burned it down. The house had been Grandpa's, but at this point, every fond memory we had built there was gone. Aunt Amy stuck a towel in the burner and turns it up to high. We put the thing on the kitchen counter and left. Carol's highly efficient shopping ways meant that she didn't get back for almost 3 hours. The firemen had to restrain her from running in after Clarence. We had already told them that Carol was crazy and there were no children left in the house. I don't know what's worse. The fact that burning down my grandfather's house was the high point of the evening, or the fact that it was only the second worst Thanksgiving we'd ever had.